Welcome back to the Abundant Harvest Homestead. I'm Papa Pepper, and I like to live a life that makes sense if nothing changes, but in preparation for if everything changes. So if I've got something that I can be doing now that's going to be a benefit and a blessing to me now, and if everything just goes absolutely crazy and you can't go to the store and get the things you're normally used to, then it sets you up for success in that situation too. That's the type of stuff I like to do. In this video, I'm going to talk about 2 plants you may not know are just bug repellents, and I'm talking about mosquitoes here. There's a lot of different plants you can plant like in your garden to deter certain types of insects and stuff, but I'm talking about mosquitoes first and foremost, and also some stuff with ticks, especially if things go bad and you're getting a bunch of bug bites everywhere, and then maybe you're itching those bug bites and you're opening up these wounds. That's a great chance for infection if you don't have access to medical care or the type of antibiotics or stuff you would normally use to treat that. That's going to be an issue, so it's best if you don't even get bit by these things in the first place. And just in regular life, it's easier not to get bit by them too. It works out better for you if you're not getting eaten up by mosquitoes and ticks. So these plants are ones you can use, they're ones that I do use, and they're ones that I want to make sure are in people's minds, because if they're in your mind, then you can learn where they are if they're in your area, or plant some on your property possibly too, if they'll grow in your area. The second one is really cool, so stay tuned for that, but let's start off with a pretty simple one a lot of people know about, at least as an herb, but I don't know if you knew that this was a bug repellent as well. So this here is an example. I won't say it's a good example of what the yarrow plant looks like, but it's kind of a leafy little guy. We've got the stuff bushed out here, and then it's already sent up all these for the year, and it looks like maybe one of the sheep nibbled the tops off. The flower heads will be white before they turn to seed. So these will all be a bunch of little white flowers. Now they do come in other colors as well, but the native wild ones are going to be white, and these are already dried. So here, if I just kind of rub it, all that stuff in my hand is going to be just a bunch of little seeds, that kind of dust. They're very small, and these can get a lot longer too, but these are the leaves for them. I've seen them probably up to about a foot almost, nice and leafy. And this one, much like our second plant, is going to be one that once you get to know the smell, you're going to know what it is. Some people say it looks kind of like poison hemlock and stuff. I don't think I could ever confuse it for that, but I throw that out there as by way of reminder. But it's one that we like having here on our property. It's one that can help our animals, and there's reasons that they may eat them sometimes. It's interesting because given the opportunity, a lot of animals seem to know how to self-medicate if they have certain plants available. Now, a lot of people know yarrow primarily as just a useful herb, but it's also a food, and it's also an insect repellent. So medicinally, as far as the herbal uses for this stuff, people use it for fever, for cold, for diarrhea. If you have a toothache, people will take the leaves and they'll chew it up. And it's also a good one for stopping bleeding. So if you have a wound, you can kind of chew up some of these leaves, make a wad of that, and kind of put it on the wound to stop the bleeding. So that's really cool and very useful to have around. I would love to have some stuff because you never know when an accident's going to happen. And one thing, living in the country a long way from a hospital, or if things go bad, you know, you might have to kind of DIY some medical stuff. Blood loss can happen really quickly and can be really terrible. So to be able just to chew up some of this and cram it in a wound to help stop it, I think that's absolutely awesome. Now they do use this as a food. A lot of times the young tender leaves, eat that. Pretty potent stuff. I don't know if you're familiar with Creeping Charlie, but that's another one where It's got a very pungent taste, and the flowers too, when they're actually just flowers still before they turn to seed heads, people use those as a food, sprinkling them on salads and things like that. This one's cool too because it's anti-inflammatory, which I'll mention something about that in a moment. But when we talk about the bug repellent here, it has some natural oils in here that repel mosquitoes and some other flying insects. So mosquitoes are what I'm in it for because I don't want to get bit if I don't have to. You can also make a tincture of it that they say is even stronger than DEET. So that's pretty cool to have a natural thing, you know, stronger than DEET that you could make yourself. To apply it as a mosquito repellent, you can just take the leaf and just kind of rub it on the exposed parts of your body or clothes. Now it smells like yarrow, but that's going to help deter them from coming. Now, of course, people's bodies are different, so it could be that you might be, you know, have an allergic reaction or something else. Always do a little test first. Make sure before you just, you know, come out, grab a bunch of handfuls of this stuff and just smear it all over your body. But to me, if I'm out here working on something, say I get carried away, all of a sudden it's later than I thought it, you know, was going to be. Evening sets in, the mosquitoes start coming out, and I'm here, I'm like, oh, well, I could just grab some of this, rub it on quick, or take a bunch, rub it in your hands, you know, and then just kind of wipe your hands over yourself to apply it, and then deter or decrease at least the amount of mosquitoes that are going to be interested in biting you. That's absolutely awesome. Now, as well, with this stuff having the anti-inflammatory properties, if you do have bug bites, say you didn't rub your yarrow on first, and you're getting the bugs biting you, you can actually apply it to help eliminate the welt and even fight any allergic reactions or anything you might have. So I think that's pretty cool. If you're not familiar with yarrow, get familiar with it. If it'll grow in your area, it's not that hard to get some seeds and get it established. It reseeds itself really well, and like I said, like our sheep and our cow and stuff, they will nibble on this periodically too. There are more medicinal uses for it and stuff, but for the purpose of this video, I just mentioned those couple earlier and wanted to point out that this, I mean, is a great way to have a mosquito repellent available just growing across your property. And I would much rather do this than spray some can of stuff from the store on me anyway, so it's much more my style. And it's interesting too because this is so much more sustainable, renewable, greener, better for the environment. I wish more people would do it. I think it's wise. So you may already know yarrow as an herb, and you may have even understood that it can be a food, but now you can know it's a bug repellent too. I love anything that stacks the functions like that, and once I get it established, it's just going to be there. The more I incorporate it into my life now, the easier it is to use in the future. Let's check out that second plant. Now this is the second one, and this one's really cool. I did not meet this plant until I moved down to the Ozarks, and when I did, I was like, what in the world is this? And what it is the American Beautyberry, Calicarpa americana. There's about 165 species of Calicarpa around the world. The beautyberry here is grown primarily by a lot of people as an ornamental, and you can see why. This one's kind of young. It spreads out about 4 feet. It's getting up towards about 5 feet, you know, actual tall. They're a little longer than that as they spread out. And one of the reasons people like them is these incredible, you know, berries that they have growing on here. Just look at that. Now I will say that these are actually edible, and I enjoy eating them. They are somewhat astringent and kind of dry. But I definitely recognize that flavor, and I don't mind incorporating them into meals, sprinkling them on salads, maybe making like ants on a log, but using these instead of real ants or instead of raisins. Just look at how incredible that coloration is there. So these are found across the southern United States and down into the Caribbean a bit too. These two have a lot of different medicinal purposes that people use them for, and a lot of great properties. There are so many of the wild edibles out there that are antiviral, antifungal, antibacterial, antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, And the American Beautyberry is one of those that checks all those boxes too. So a really cool plant to have around. A lot of different things that people have used them for over the years. And just besides being ornamental. Now the wild animals eat these too, but it seems like they want to eat a lot of the other stuff first, and they use this more as a last resort. I don't blame them, but it's good to have it on the shelf as one of their later go-tos for when they're hungry and they need food heading into the winter and stuff. A variety of medicinal uses have been used with the leaves, the stems, and the roots. But for this one, what are we talking about? Yeah, it's a mosquito repellent and other bugs too. So the natural repellent that these guys have works good with ants, with mosquitoes, and with ticks. And in fact, this plant can be more effective than DEET at repelling ticks. So just think about that. I mean, DEET was one of the ones people thought was like the best thing ever, but you can make a tincture from the yarrow that surpasses that. You can use this plant and have it surpass that. To me, that's awesome. So what I like to do to use this is just grab those leaves, pinch them off, kind of crumple them up, and then apply them like that. You know, rub them on your clothes, rub them on your skin. Again, it may be best for you to do kind of a test to make sure you don't have any reaction to it. But people even used to take the leaves and stuff them up under the horses' bridles to repel insects from, you know, biting flies and stuff from getting them. I think it's awesome. This is one of the ones we have here growing on our property. I've seen them in the wild across the Ozarks, but we didn't have any growing native on our property, so I've got a couple of them getting established now. Propagation's not that bad. You can actually snip a piece of this, stick it in the ground, and get it to go. I've done that before. And then, of course, they have the seeds as well. It is a food source. It does have other uses. And I mean, what a great ornamental as well. If you were only growing it as a worst case scenario, I might need some mosquito repellent and I want something that looks nice in the meantime, this would be a great option. I mean, it's a good conversation starter too for people who don't know this plant. They'll show up, they'll see something like that and they'll be like, what in the world is that? When's the last time you had something that was hot pink growing out in your garden like that? I mean, to me, that's fantastic. That's wild. And a cool thing about this too is that it is a perennial. So if I plant it once, it'll be there for years to come. And there is ways with this one as well to, I've known of people making like a shelf stable mosquito repellent that they just make up some batch ahead of time and they have that they can apply periodically. If I'm out here in the garden again, I have the leaves available. I don't mind just rubbing some on as I go. But another one where if you're familiar with it, you know what it is. This one too has kind of a distinct scent. The berries have a distinct flavor. Hard to confuse with other plants. I mean, I don't know any other ones that look like this around here. I wouldn't confuse this for anyone. But by knowing about it, I can start using it as a bug repellent right now for mosquitoes and ticks. And if things get really bad and I'm not able to get an actual bug spray again, you don't want to be in some survival situation, be getting completely eaten up by bugs, sitting there, and even if you're just, you're sleeping and you start, itching it, you wake up and you got kind of a wound open, you got your skin exposed, it's got tore open, you can get bacteria in there, you can get infection. That can pose a real risk to you, so it's better just to avoid that situation altogether, and if all it takes is knowing a plant or two that could help, I would much rather do that. So what do you guys think? Are you familiar with the American Beautyberry? Have you heard of yarrow before? If so, you might have known them as, an ornamental in this case, or maybe a herb when it comes to yarrow, but did you know that they're a natural bug repellent? And if you did, have you ever used them? I've used this one for a number of years. It wasn't until more recently that I found out about yarrow, but now I'm going to use them both, probably on a pretty regular basis. My skin interacts fine with them, and as much as I love the animals out there in the world, I'd rather not get bit by ticks and mosquitoes. Besides just the wounds that they can make, they can both carry different diseases as well, like Lyme's disease or some of the mosquito-borne illnesses that I would rather just step outside that whole realm and not have to worry about it. And if this helps me accomplish some of that, then this is the type of stuff I want to look for. Let me know if you learned anything. I'll see you next time. Papa out.
Thank you for watching. Hit the The cow head is good?
Yeah.
That's because you know.